The night shift on Sentinel Prime was always quiet. Dr. Lisa Harper sat in her chair, watching the endless streams of data flowing across her screens. Stars blinked in the darkness outside the station windows. She had been monitoring deep space signals for 3 years now, and most nights were the same. Random cosmic noise, old satellite signals from Earth, and the occasional meteor shower, but tonight was different. At 0347 hours, her equipment picked up something strange. The signal was not like anything in the human database. It had patterns. Mathematics and what seemed like music mixed together. Lisa leaned forward, her heart beating faster. This was not random noise. This was intelligent. She called Commander Jake Morrison right away. Morrison was sleeping in his quarters when his communicator buzzed. He had been commanding Sentinel Prime for 5 years and knew that Lisa never called unless it was important. "What do you have, Harper?" Morrison asked as he walked into the communications room. His gray hair was messy from sleep, but his eyes were alert. "Sir, you need to hear this," Lisa said. She played the signal through the speakers. The sound filled the room with strange harmonies and mathematical sequences. This came from the outer rim, about 800 light-years away. Morrison listened carefully. He had fought in the Mars colonies before taking this job. He knew the sound of distress when he heard it. "How long have you been working on it?" 4 hours, sir. I have been running it through every translation program we have. The mathematics are incredible. Whoever sent this is very smart. Lieutenant Ben? Carter walked into the room carrying a cup of coffee. He was young, only 25, but he was the best communications officer on the station. "Dr. Harper, I heard the alert. What are we looking at?" Lisa turned to her computer screen. "The signal contains star charts, Ben. Look at this." She pointed to a series of numbers on her screen. These coordinates match star systems in the outer rim, and these patterns here, they repeat every few minutes. Morrison studied the data. In his military training, he had learned to read situations quickly. This felt big. "Can you translate any of it?" "Some of it, yes." Lisa's fingers moved quickly over her keyboard. "The senders call themselves the Cathara. And, sir, they are asking for help." Captain Amy Rodriguez entered the communications room. She was head of station security and never missed anything important happening on her watch. Her dark eyes scanned the room, taking in the serious faces of her colleagues. "Commander, we have a situation?" Rodriguez asked. "Maybe the biggest one we have ever had," Morrison replied. He turned to Lisa. "Show her what you found." Lisa pulled up a new screen showing her translation work. "The Cathara are under attack. Something they call the Devourer Swarm is destroying their worlds. They have heard stories about humans, about how we survived on a dangerous planet and became strong fighters." Carter nearly dropped his coffee cup. "They are asking us for help? Aliens are asking humans for help?" "It gets stranger," Lisa continued. "According to this message, they have been broadcasting toward human space for weeks. They think we might be their only hope." Morrison felt the weight of command settling on his shoulders. First contact with an alien species was supposed to go through Earth Command. There were protocols, procedures, and politicians who needed to be involved. But if these aliens were really under attack, there might not be time for all that. Rodriguez stepped closer to the screens. "How do we know this is real?" "It could be a test from Earth Command or even a trap." Lisa had been thinking the same thing. "I ran every test I could think of. The signal origin is definitely from outside human space. The mathematics are too complex to be fake, and look at this." She pulled up another screen showing wave patterns. The distress markers in the signal, they match emotional patterns we see in humans under extreme stress. "Emotional patterns?" Morrison asked. "Yes, sir. Whoever sent this is scared. Really scared." Carter was studying the star charts on his own screen. "Dr. Harper, these coordinates, how far away are they?" 847 light-years, give or take. Morrison walked to the large window overlooking space. In his 5 years commanding Sentinel Prime, he had never faced a decision like this. The station's job was to monitor and report. But if an alien species was about to be destroyed, could he really just file a report and wait for Earth Command? To respond? Harper, how much more of the message can you translate? Give me another few hours and I might have most of it. But Commander, there is something else. The timestamps on the signal show it was sent 18 days ago. If they really are under attack. They might already be dead, Rodriguez finished. Morrison made his decision. Carter, open a priority channel to Earth Command. Full encryption, Rodriguez, I want this room sealed. No one else comes in until we figure out what we are dealing with. Yes, sir, both officers replied. Lisa continued working on the translation. As more of the message became clear, the situation looked worse. The Kithara described themselves as peaceful scientists. They had never fought a war. They lived on beautiful worlds with no dangerous animals or harsh weather. When the Devourer swarm arrived, they had no way to fight back. Commander, Lisa called out, I have more of the message translated. The Kithara, they evolved on what they call garden worlds. No predators, no disasters, no wars. They never learned to fight. And the Devourer swarm? Morrison asked. A species that eats everything? They consume entire planets and turn the organic matter into more warriors. The Kithara have watched them destroy 3 star systems already. Carter looked up from his communication station. Sir, Earth Command is responding. They want a full report on the signal, Morrison nodded. Send them everything we have? But Carter, make sure they understand the time factor. If we are going to help these people, we need to move fast. As the hours passed, more of the alien message became clear. The Kithara had heard stories about humans from other species. Stories about a race that evolved on a death world, a planet so dangerous that only the strongest could survive. They had heard that humans were warriors, fighters who never gave up. They think we are their only hope, Lisa said quietly. In all their searching, humans are the only species they have heard of that might be able to fight the swarm. Morrison looked around the room at his team. These were good people, smart people who had dedicated their lives to exploring the unknown. But none of them had expected to face a decision that could affect the fate of an entire alien species. How long before we hear back from Earth Command? He asked Carter. At least 6 hours for a full response, sir. But they have acknowledged receipt of our message. Rodriguez was studying tactical displays on her screen. Commander, if this swarm is as dangerous as the aliens say, Earth is going to want to know everything about them. Morrison agreed. The implications were staggering. If the Devourer swarm could destroy advanced civilizations, what would happen if they turned toward human space? But more importantly, could humanity live with itself if it let an entire peaceful species die when it might have the power to help? Keep working on that translation, Harper. I want to know everything these Kithara can tell us about the swarm. And I want to know it before Earth Command makes their decision. The night shift on Sentinel Prime was no longer quiet. The emergency meeting room at Earth Command headquarters was full of the most powerful people in human space. Admiral Paul Jackson sat at the head of the long table, his uniform decorated with medals from 3 decades of service. Around him sat generals, scientists, and diplomats who would decide humanity's response to the alien distress call. General Maria Santos was the first to speak. She commanded all Terran Defense Forces and had never seen anything like this situation. Admiral, we have confirmed the signal is genuine. Our best analysis shows the Kithara are real, and so is their enemy. Dr. Richard Hayes opened his tablet and displayed images on the wall screen. The biological data we extracted from their message is fascinating. The Kithara evolved on worlds with no natural predators. Their bodies are fragile compared to humans. They have advanced brains but weak physical forms. Ambassador Kate Williams leaned forward. This raises serious questions about intervention. We have no treaties with these aliens. No legal framework for military action in their space. Admiral Jackson had been reading reports for 6 hours straight. The situation was unlike anything in human history. Dr. Hayes, what about this Devourer swarm? What are we looking at? Hayes switched to a new display showing biological analysis. Based on the Kithara data, the swarm is a nightmare. They are living ships, each one a massive organism. They reproduce by consuming organic matter from planets and converting it into new warriors. Fleet Captain Tony Mitchell spoke up from his position near the wall screen. He commanded the dreadnought UHS Retribution and had fought pirates in the outer systems. Sir, if these creatures can eat entire planets, they represent a threat to all organic life in the galaxy. General Santos pulled up tactical displays. Captain Mitchell is right. Our analysis shows that if the swarm consumes the Cathara homeworld, they will gain enough biomass to become unstoppable. Each planet they eat makes them stronger. Ambassador Williams was not convinced. We are talking about starting a war with an alien species we know nothing about. What if diplomacy could work? What if we could negotiate? Dr. Hayes shook his head. Ambassador, the Cathara tried diplomacy. The swarm does not communicate, they just consume. According to the alien data, the swarm has destroyed 3 entire star systems. No survivors, no negotiations. Admiral Jackson stood and walked to the large window overlooking Geneva. Outside, he could see the lights of the city where humans had once gathered to prevent wars between themselves. Now they were deciding whether to fight a war for aliens they had never met. How long do the Cathara have? Jackson asked. General Santos checked her datapad. Based on the signal timestamps and the swarm's advance rate, maybe 5 days before their homeworld falls. Captain Mitchell stepped forward. Admiral, I have run preliminary calculations. We could mobilize the entire fleet in 48 hours. Every ship, every weapon, every marine. The entire fleet? Williams asked in shock. That would leave Earth defenseless. No, Jackson replied. It would send a message. To the swarm, to the Cathara, and to any other species watching that humanity protects those who cannot protect themselves. Dr. Hayes was studying biological data on his tablet. Admiral, there is something else. The Cathara message mentions other species the swarm has encountered. Most fled or hid. Only one species ever fought back effectively. Who? Santos asked. U.S. Humans, apparently. Stories about our wars and survival abilities have spread through this part of the galaxy. The Cathara specifically asked for help from the species that survived on a death world. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. Somewhere in space, aliens knew about human military capabilities and were counting on them for survival. Captain Mitchell brought up fleet deployment charts. Admiral, we have 297 active ships. 18 carriers, 42 dreadnoughts, 79 cruisers, and the rest are support vessels. If we move everything, we can be in Cathara space in 6 days. Ambassador Williams was still concerned about the diplomatic implications. Admiral, if we deploy our entire fleet, every species in the galaxy will know about human military power. That could make us targets. Or it could make us respected, General Santos replied. Sometimes the best way to prevent war is to show that you are prepared to fight one. Jackson returned to his seat. In 30 years of military service, he had never faced a decision this important. The choice they made in this room would determine not just the fate of an alien species, but humanity's place in the galaxy. Dr. Hayes, in your opinion, can we win against this swarm? Hayes looked at his biological analysis. Admiral, the swarm has advantages. They are numerous, they can regenerate damage, and they adapt to weapons over time. But they also have weaknesses. Such as they appear to operate on instinct rather than strategy. They rely on overwhelming numbers rather than tactics. And most importantly, they have never fought a species like humans. General Santos brought up combat simulations on the main screen. Our weapons should be effective against biological targets. Our ships are faster and more maneuverable than the swarm vessels. And our troops are trained for combat in hostile environments. Captain Mitchell studied the tactical data. The key advantage is psychological. The swarm expects their enemies to run or hide. They have never faced a species that evolved to fight for survival every day. Jackson made his decision. General Santos, begin immediate mobilization of all fleet assets. Every ship, every marine, every pilot. I want the largest military force in human history ready to jump in 36 hours. Yes, sir, Santos replied, already reaching for her communicator. Captain Mitchell, you will command the fleet. Your mission is simple: save the Cathara and destroy the swarm threat. Mitchell stood at attention. Admiral, what are our rules of engagement? Total war, Captain. The swarm has shown no mercy to peaceful species. We will show them what happens when they threaten the innocent. Ambassador Williams raised a final concern. Admiral, what if other alien species see this as human aggression? What if they unite against us? Jackson looked around the room at the faces of humanity's leaders. Then they will learn the same lesson the swarm is about to learn. Humanity does not start fights, but we finish them. Dr. Hayes was already preparing scientific packages for the fleet. Admiral, I recommend sending our best xenobiologists with the fleet. If we are going to fight a biological enemy, we need to understand them. Approved? What else do you need? Full access to the Cathara database once we make contact. Their scientific knowledge could be crucial for developing new weapons against the swarm. General Santos looked up from her communicator. Admiral, fleet commanders are reporting in. They can have ships moving within 18 hours. Morale is high. The crews are excited about humanity's first contact mission. Captain Mitchell was reviewing ship assignments. Sir, I recommend keeping our fastest ships in reserve. If the situation is worse than expected, we may need to evacuate Cathara survivors. Good thinking. Plan for multiple scenarios. As the meeting continued, reports came in from across human space. Ship crews were canceling leave and reporting for duty early. Marine units were loading assault equipment. Fighter pilots were running practice missions. Word was spreading that humanity was going to war to save an alien species. Jackson received a message from the President of Earth. The civilian government supported the military action, understanding that this moment would define humanity's future. Among the stars, ladies and gentlemen, Jackson announced to the room, in 48 hours, the largest fleet in human history will jump to defend a species we have never met against an enemy we barely understand. This is not just about saving the Cathara. This is about showing the galaxy what humanity stands for. General Santos was coordinating with fleet commanders across the solar system. Admiral, all ships report ready for mobilization. The fleet will assemble at Jupiter Station before making the jump to Cathara space. Dr. Hayes finished his biological preparations. Sir, I have prepared comprehensive analysis packages for the fleet. Our scientists will be ready to study both the Cathara and the swarm upon arrival. Captain Mitchell reviewed the final fleet composition. Admiral, we will jump with 297 ships carrying over 50,000 personnel. This is the largest military operation in human history. Ambassador Williams stood to leave. Admiral, I will prepare diplomatic protocols for first contact with the Cathara, assuming any of them survive until we arrive. Jackson nodded. They will survive. We will make sure of that. As the meeting ended, each leader left to prepare for humanity's first interstellar war. None of them knew what they would find in Cathara space, but all of them understood that the human race was about to announce itself to the galaxy in the loudest way possible. The human armada dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Cathara star system. Captain Tony Mitchell stood on the bridge of the UHS Retribution, watching his screens fill with contact alerts. What he saw made his blood run cold. The Cathara system was dying. 2 of the outer planets were gone, reduced to floating debris and gas clouds. Massive biological ships, each the size of a city, swarmed around the remaining worlds like hungry insects. The 3rd planet was half consumed, its surface stripped bare and glowing with unnatural fires. Captain, we are receiving multiple signals, reported Communications Officer Lieutenant Sarah Davis. The Cathara are trying to contact us. Mitchell activated the main screen. An alien face appeared, unlike anything humans had ever seen. The creature had large, intelligent eyes and delicate features that showed both hope and terror. Human vessels. The alien spoke through translation software. I am Ambassador Zethkar of the Cathara Science Council. We We did not expect so many ships. Mitchell stepped forward. Ambassador, I am Captain Tony Mitchell of the Terran Defense Fleet. We received your distress call. What is your current situation? Zethkar's image flickered as explosions lit up the space behind him. Captain Mitchell, the Devourer swarm has consumed 2 of our worlds already. Our homeworld has perhaps hours before the final assault begins. We have 15 million people left. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the fleet's lead xenobiologist, studied the alien on her scanner. Captain, look at his bone structure and muscle development. These people evolved with no natural threats. They are completely unprepared for warfare. Commander Ryan Brooks, leader of the fighter squadrons, was analyzing the enemy ships through his tactical display. Captain, those bioships are massive. Each one has to contain thousands of swarm warriors, but they move slowly and seem to rely on numbers rather than strategy. Lieutenant Colonel Sandra Kim, commander of the Marine Forces, was studying landing zones on the Cathara homeworld. Sir, there are swarm ground forces on the planet's surface. They appeared to be stripping organic matter and loading it onto transport vessels. Mitchell made his first command decision. All ships, battle stations. Brooks, launch all fighters. Target the smaller swarm vessels and keep them away from the planet. Kim, prepare your Marines for ground assault. We are going to save as many Cathara as possible. The human fleet spread out in attack formation. The massive dreadnoughts moved toward the largest bioships while cruisers engaged the medium-sized swarm vessels. Fighter squadrons swarmed through space, their weapons blazing against the alien invaders. Commander Brooks led the first fighter attack personally. His squadron dove toward a cluster of swarm vessels that were attacking Cathara evacuation ships. "Old pilots, these creatures have been bullying peaceful aliens. Let's show them what happens when they pick on someone who can fight back." The human fighters struck fast and hard. Their weapons tore through the biological hulls of the swarm ships, causing them to leak strange fluids into space. But Mitchell quickly realized the enemy's main advantage. "Captain," reported Tactical Officer Lieutenant Mark Chun, "enemy contacts are increasing. Every time we destroy a swarm vessel, 2 more appear from the larger bioships." Dr. Vasquez was analyzing the enemy through her scanners. "Captain, the large ships are not just vessels. They are living factories. They are converting the organic matter they consumed from the other planets into new warriors." Ambassador Zethkar's voice came through the communications again. "Captain Mitchell, we have been monitoring your engagement. Your weapons are effective against the swarm, but their numbers seem endless. In our observations, they adapt to threats over time." Mitchell studied the tactical display. The human fleet was holding its own, but barely. For every swarm ship they destroyed, more appeared. The bioships were simply too large and too numerous. "Brooks, status report," Mitchell called out. "Sir, we are doing damage, but not enough. These creatures fight like they have nothing to lose. They ram our ships when their weapons fail. And Captain, they are learning. The newer vessels that launch are adapting to our attack patterns." Lieutenant Colonel Kim was preparing her Marines for the ground assault. "Captain, I need permission to take my troops to the planet's surface. The Cathara civilians need protection, and we might find intelligence about swarm weaknesses down there." Mitchell approved the mission. As the Marine dropships launched toward the planet, he opened communications with the rest of the fleet. "All vessels, this is Captain Mitchell. We are facing an enemy unlike anything we have encountered. They rely on numbers and biological advantages, but they have never fought humans before." The largest swarm bioship began moving toward the human fleet. It was 3 times the size of the biggest human dreadnought and pulsed with organic energy. Smaller ships launched from its surface like insects from a hive. "Captain," Dr. Vasquez called out urgently, "I am detecting massive biological activity." "From that ship?" "It is not just a vessel, it is a living command center. If we could disable it, the smaller ships might lose coordination." Commander Brooks was already forming his squadrons for an attack run. "Captain, give me every fighter we have. If that thing is their brain, we need to give it a headache." The fighter assault on the command bioship was fierce. Human pilots dove through swarms of defending creatures, their weapons cutting deep into the living hull. But the ship's defenses were incredible. Organic cannons fired streams of acid that could melt through fighter armor in seconds. "Brooks, to Fleet Command," came the urgent call. "We are taking heavy losses. This thing has defenses we have never seen. It is like fighting a living fortress." Mitchell watched his tactical display as red lights showed damaged and destroyed human ships. The fleet was fighting bravely, but the enemy's numbers were overwhelming. Then Lieutenant Colonel Kim's voice came from the planet's surface. "Fleet Command. This is Kim. We have made contact with Kithara ground forces. They are sharing intelligence about swarm biology. The creatures have a weakness." "What kind of weakness?" Mitchell asked. "Sir, the Kithara scientists have been studying captured swarm organisms. The creatures operate through chemical signals and biological programming. They cannot adapt to psychological warfare or unpredictable tactics." Dr. Vasquez was excited by this information. "Captain, that makes sense. A species that operates on pure instinct would have trouble dealing with deception and misdirection." Ambassador Zethkar appeared on screen again. "Captain Mitchell, our scientists are transmitting all their research data to your ships. The swarm creatures are individually intelligent but collectively controlled. They expect their enemies to fight logically." Mitchell understood immediately. "Brooks, change tactics, stop fighting like a military unit. Fight like pirates, like raiders. Hit and run, random attacks, false retreats, confuse them." The change in human tactics was immediate and effective. Instead of organized formations, the human ships began fighting like individual hunters. They would appear to retreat, then suddenly turn and attack from unexpected angles. Fighters would fake damage and then strike when swarm ships moved to finish them off. Commander Brooks led a group of fighters in what appeared to be a panicked retreat from the command bioship. When the swarm vessels pursued, thinking they had won, the human ships suddenly turned and unleashed everything they had at point-blank range. The psychological warfare was working. Swarm ships began hesitating before attacks, unsure if human retreats were real or fake. Their biological programming could not handle an enemy that refused to follow predictable patterns. "Captain," reported Lieutenant Chun, "enemy coordination is breaking down. The smaller ships are no longer working together effectively." On the planet's surface, Lieutenant Colonel Kim was leading her Marines in a rescue operation to save Kithara civilians. "Fleet Command, we have secured 3 evacuation sites. The Kithara are amazed that we are willing to fight in conditions that would kill their species. Dr. Vasquez was working with Kithara scientists to develop new weapons." "Captain, the aliens have given us the biological makeup of the Swarm Command organisms. If we can target their leadership creatures, we might be able to disrupt their entire operation." Mitchell made the decision that would turn the battle. "All ships, focus fire on the command bioship. Use everything we have. Brooks, I want every fighter making suicide runs if necessary. We end this here and now." The final assault on the Swarm Command ship was brutal. Human vessels that had never been designed for close combat rammed biological defenses. Fighters flew directly into the creatures' mouth-like openings to attack from inside. Marines boarded enemy vessels and fought hand-to-hand with creatures twice their size. Ambassador Zethkar watched the battle from his command center, unable to believe what he was seeing. "Captain Mitchell, your people are fighting in conditions that would kill any Kithara instantly. How do you survive such violence?" Mitchell's response was simple. "Ambassador, we come from a world that tried to kill us every day. This is just another day for humanity." The command bioship finally began to die. Its organic systems failed one by one as human weapons found vital organs. The smaller swarm vessels stopped their coordinated attacks and began fleeing in random directions. Lieutenant Colonel Sandra Kim led her Marines through the toxic wasteland that had once been a beautiful Kithara city. The air was filled with poisonous gases released by the swarm's feeding process, and the ground was covered with a sticky organic substance that would trap any normal creature. But these were human Marines, trained to fight in conditions that would kill most species in minutes. Sergeant Johnson, take your squad left. We need to clear that hive structure before it can produce more warriors. Kim ordered through her helmet communicator. Sergeant Mike Johnson moved with his 8 Marines toward a massive, biological structure that pulsed with alien life. It looked like a giant heart made of black metal and living tissue. Smaller swarm. Creatures crawled in and out of openings in its surface. "Ma'am, this thing is ugly even by alien standards," Johnson reported. "Looks like it's converting Kithara organic matter into new swarm troops." The Marines approached the hive carefully. The swarm had proven they could adapt to human weapons, but they had not yet learned to deal with human tactics. Johnson's squad moved in patterns that made no sense to creatures programmed for logical warfare. "Remember what the Kithara scientists told us," Kim called over the radio. "These things expect their enemies to run away or fight in straight lines. We do neither." Above them, Commander Ryan Brooks was coordinating air support from his fighter squadron. The space battle had moved to the planet's surface as more swarm bioships landed to begin the final consumption of the world. "Ground teams, this is Brooks. I have eyes on a massive bioship landing 2 kilometers from your position. Looks like it's carrying heavy assault creatures." Dr. Elena Vasquez was working frantically in a mobile laboratory set up inside a Kithara bunker. She had been studying captured swarm organisms with the help of Kithara scientist Veltar, trying to find better ways to fight the biological enemy. "Colonel Kim, I have important information," Vasquez called through the communications network. "The swarm creatures have individual brains, but they share information through chemical signals. If we can disrupt those signals, they become confused and ineffective." Veltar, the Kithara scientist, watched the human doctor work with amazement. "Dr. Vasquez, your species' ability to function in these toxic conditions is remarkable. Emmy, Kithara exposed to these chemicals would die within minutes." Vasquez paused in her work to look at the gentle alien. "Veltar, humans evolved on a world where everything tried to kill us. Poisonous air, deadly animals, extreme weather, dangerous plants. We learned to survive in conditions that would destroy most life forms." The Kithara scientist studied the biological data on his screen. "Perhaps that is why you are the first species to effectively fight the swarm. They have never encountered creatures adapted for such hostile environments." Back on the battlefield, Sergeant Johnson's squad was preparing to assault the hive structure. The Marines had spent years training in Earth's most dangerous environments, from the acid storms of Venus colonies to the radiation-soaked battlefields of the outer asteroids. "Okay, people, remember your training," Johnson told his squad. "Torres, you and Chin hit the left side. Williams and Davis take the right. Murphy and I go straight up the middle. Make noise, cause chaos, and do not follow any predictable pattern." The Marine assault on the hive was unlike anything the swarm had ever experienced. Instead of a coordinated military attack, the humans fought like wild animals protecting their territory. They used grenades to create confusion, then attacked from unexpected directions. When the swarm creatures tried to surround them, the Marines would suddenly retreat, only to attack again from completely different positions. "These things just don't know how to handle crazy," Marine Torres laughed as she threw an explosive charge into a group of swarm warriors. "Look at them, they keep trying to form up in battle lines like we're going to fight fair." The swarm creatures were indeed confused. Their biological programming told them that prey species should either run away or fight in organized groups. These humans did neither. They fought with a combination of advanced technology and primitive aggression that made no logical sense. Colonel Kim was monitoring the assault while coordinating with the space forces above. "Brooks, we need you to hit that landing bioship before it can deploy its troops. My Marines are already dealing with more swarm creatures than we can handle." "Copy that, Kim. Bringing my fighters around for an attack run." Brooks replied. The fighter attack on the landing bioship showed another aspect of human warfare that the swarm could not understand. Instead of attacking the most heavily defended areas, the human pilots targeted what appeared to be the least important sections of the ship. "All pilots, ignore the weapon clusters," Brooks commanded. hit the organic support structures. Let's see how well this thing flies when we cut off its blood supply. The pilots dove toward sections of the bioship that looked like arteries and nerve clusters. The swarm's defensive weapons were positioned to protect command areas and weapons, not biological support systems. The human attack caused the massive ship to convulse in pain and begin bleeding strange fluids. Dr. Vasquez was watching the attack through her sensors. Colonel Kim, the psychological warfare is working better than we hoped. The swarm creatures are starting to show signs of fear. They have never faced an enemy that causes them actual pain rather than just destruction. Veltar was studying human combat footage with amazement. Dr. Vasquez, your Marines are fighting in temperatures that would cook our bodies and breathing air that would poison our lungs. Yet they move as if these conditions are normal. For humans, they are normal, Vasquez replied while preparing a new chemical weapon. We spent millions of years learning to survive in every hostile environment our planet could create. Compared to some places on Earth, this battlefield is actually quite comfortable. Sergeant Johnson's squad had successfully destroyed the hive structure, but more swarm creatures were approaching from all directions. Instead of falling back to a defensive position like any logical military unit would do, Johnson made a decision that confused every swarm creature in the area. Squad, we advance straight toward the largest group of enemies. The Marines charged directly into the center of the swarm formation, firing in all directions and using explosives to create maximum chaos. The swarm creatures had been programmed to expect retreating enemies, not attackers who became more aggressive when outnumbered. Johnson, what are you doing? Colonel Kim called over the radio. Ma'am, these things expect us to be scared when they outnumber us. So we're showing them that humans get more dangerous when cornered, just like any predator from Earth. The tactic worked perfectly. The swarm creatures began hesitating before attacks, unsure whether the humans were retreating or setting up ambush. Their biological programming could not handle an enemy that became more violent as the situation became more desperate. Commander Brooks was leading his fighters in increasingly aggressive attacks on the bioships. All pilots, new tactic, when your weapons run out, ram them. Show these creatures that humans would rather die fighting than live running. Several human fighters had already made ramming attacks on swarm vessels, causing massive damage before their pilots ejected to safety. The psychological effect on the swarm was devastating. They had never encountered a species willing to sacrifice valuable equipment and risk their lives for strategic advantage. Dr. Vasquez finally completed her chemical weapon with Veltar's help. Colonel Kim, I have developed a compound that should disrupt swarm communication signals. If we can deploy it over a large area, their coordination will collapse. How do we deploy it? Kim asked. The fighter squadrons could carry the compound in modified missiles. One hit on each major swarm concentration should be enough. Colonel Kim approved the plan and called for air support. Brooks, we need you to deliver a special package to our swarm friends. Dr. Vasquez has cooked up something that should ruin their day. The chemical attack was launched simultaneously across the battlefield. Human fighters dove through heavy swarm defenses to deliver the disruption compound. As the chemical spread through the air, the effect on the swarm creatures was immediate and dramatic. Kim, this is amazing, Brooks reported. The swarm creatures are stumbling around like they're drunk. They can't coordinate attacks anymore. Sergeant Johnson's squad took advantage of the confusion to launch a final assault on the remaining swarm positions. Ma'am, the enemies are acting like they can't talk to each other. This is our chance to finish them off. The Marines moved through the disoriented swarm forces like wolves hunting confused prey. Without their chemical communication, the creatures reverted to individual behavior patterns that made them easy targets for experienced human soldiers. Veltar watched the human victory with wonder. Dr. Vasquez, in all our research, we never considered using chemical disruption against the swarm. Your species thinks in ways that are completely foreign to both us and our enemies. Vasquez smiled as she watched the Marines systematically destroy the remaining swarm forces. Veltar, that's what happens when you evolve on a world where everything is trying to kill you. You learn to think of solutions that peaceful species would never consider. Colonel Kim received reports from all her Marine units. 3 weeks after the battle, Admiral Paul Jackson stood in the rebuilt Kithara Council chambers on their homeworld. The room was filled with both human and alien representatives, working together to plan the future of two species that had found each other in the darkness of space. The war against the Devourer swarm was over, but its effects would last forever. Humanity had lost 12 ships and over 300 personnel in the fighting. The Kithara had lost 2 entire worlds and millions of their people. Yet somehow, from this tragedy, something beautiful was being born. Ambassador Kate Williams sat across from Kithara leader Morthak, working on the details of the first formal alliance between humanity and an alien species. The gentle alien leader still seemed amazed that beings from another world had traveled so far to save his people. Ambassador Williams, Morthak said through the translation device, our people are still trying to understand why humans risked so much for strangers. In all our studies of the galaxy, we have never encountered such behavior. Williams smiled. She had been a diplomat for 20 years, but this was the most important negotiation of her career. Leader Morthak, humanity has a saying, no one fights alone. When we heard your distress call, you stopped being strangers. You became people who needed help. Commander Jake Morrison was overseeing the construction of the new joint research station in orbit above the Kithara homeworld. The station would serve as humanity's first permanent outpost in alien space and a symbol of cooperation between the species. Dr. Lisa Harper, who had first detected the Kithara distress signal, was now head of the Interspecies Communication Project. She worked daily with Kithara scientists to improve translation technology and establish permanent contact networks between Earth and Kithara space. Commander Morrison, Harper reported during their daily briefing, we have established real-time communication links with Earth Command. The political implications are enormous. Every major government on Earth wants to establish diplomatic relations with the Kithara. Morrison nodded as he reviewed construction reports. How are the Kithara handling all the attention? Better than expected. Leader Morthak seems to understand that humanity needs time to adjust to not being alone in the universe. But Jake, there's something else. We're receiving signals from other species. Morrison looked up from his datapad. Other species? At least 7 different alien civilizations have sent messages since news of the battle spread. Some want protection from other threats. Others are offering trade agreements. A few seem to want military alliances. The implications were staggering. Humanity had gone from an isolated species to a major galactic power in less than a month. The victory over the swarm had established humans as protectors of peaceful species, but it had also made them a target for anyone who saw their military power as a threat. Dr. Elena Vasquez was working in her new laboratory on the Joint Research Station. She had been studying Kithara technology for weeks, amazed by their advances in energy manipulation and biological sciences. The peaceful aliens had spent their entire history focused on creation rather than destruction. Dr. Harper, you need to see this, Vasquez called over the communication system. The Kithara have technology that could revolutionize human civilization. Their energy systems are centuries ahead of ours. Kithara scientist Veltar was working alongside Vasquez, equally amazed by human technology. Dr. Vasquez, your species? Weapons technology is remarkable, but what interests me more is your medical science. Humans have developed treatments for injuries and diseases that would be impossible for our species to survive. The technological exchange was benefiting both species. Kithara energy technology could power human ships for years without refueling. Human medical technology could extend Kithara lifespans and help them survive in previously hostile environments. Admiral Jackson was meeting with Fleet Captain Tony Mitchell to discuss the long-term implications of humanity's new role in the galaxy. Mitchell had been promoted after his successful command of the fleet during the swarm battle. Admiral, we have requests for military assistance from 4 different species, Mitchell reported. Two are dealing with piracy problems, one is facing territorial disputes with aggressive neighbors, and one claims to be under threat from another hive mind species similar to the swarm. Jackson studied the requests carefully. Captain, we cannot become the galaxy's police force. But we also cannot ignore species that genuinely need help. What do you recommend, sir? We establish clear criteria for intervention. We help species that cannot defend themselves against existential threats. We do not get involved in territorial disputes or political conflicts, and we always try diplomacy first. Back on the Kithara homeworld, Lieutenant Colonel Sandra Kim was training the first Kithara defense volunteers. The peaceful aliens were trying to learn basic military tactics in case another threat emerged. The key is not to think like soldiers, Kim explained to her alien students. Think like survivors. When threatened, use every advantage you have. Your superior intelligence, your advanced technology, your ability to work together. The Kithara volunteers were struggling with concepts that came naturally to humans. The idea of deliberately harming another living being was foreign to their entire evolutionary history. But they were learning that sometimes violence was necessary to protect the innocent. Sergeant Mike Johnson was leading combat training exercises with mixed human and Kithara units. Ma'am, these aliens are quick learners when it comes to tactics. They just need to get past their natural reluctance to fight. Commander Ryan Brooks was working with Kithara engineers to develop new spacecraft designs that combined human, military technology with Kithara energy systems. The hybrid ships would be faster, more powerful, and more efficient than anything either species could build alone. The Kithara are natural engineers, Brooks reported to Admiral Jackson. Give them a few years to adapt human military concepts, and they could be building ships that make our current fleet look primitive. Ambassador Williams was finalizing the treaty documents that would establish the Human-Kithara Alliance. The agreement included mutual defense pacts, technology sharing, agreements, and protocols for dealing with other alien species. Leader Morthak, this alliance will change both our species forever, Williams said during the signing ceremony. Are your people ready for that level of change? The Kithara leader considered the question carefully. Ambassador Williams, 3 weeks ago, my species was facing extinction. Today we have hope for the future. If change is the price of survival, we accept it gladly. Dr. Harper was monitoring the first joint exploration mission between human and Kithara scientists. The mission was traveling to investigate ruins left behind by a species that had disappeared thousands of years ago. Commander Morrison, the joint mission is reporting interesting findings. The ruins show evidence of advanced technology, but also signs of sudden abandonment. It's possible this species encountered something similar to the swarm. Morrison was concerned by the implications. Harper, are we looking at evidence of other threats in the galaxy? It's possible. But Jake, we're also seeing evidence that some species survived by working together. The galaxy has room for both cooperation and conflict. As the weeks passed, more alien species made contact with the Human-Kithara Alliance. Some were peaceful traders offering exotic goods and knowledge. Others were refugees from conflicts in distant star systems. A few were potential military allies. Interested in mutual defense agreements, the alliance established diplomatic protocols for first contact situations. Every new species would be evaluated for peaceful intentions, technological capabilities, and potential threats to alliance members. Admiral Jackson received regular reports on galactic political developments. Captain Mitchell, intelligence suggests that our victory over the swarm has created ripple effects throughout this sector of the galaxy. Some aggressive species are being more cautious about attacking peaceful worlds. Others see us as a challenge to their territorial expansion. Mitchell was preparing contingency plans for various scenarios. Admiral, we need to be ready for anything. The galaxy knows about human military capabilities now, and not everyone will see that as a positive development. The Joint Research Station was becoming a hub of interspecies cooperation. Scientists from multiple species worked together on projects, ranging from medical research to advanced propulsion systems. The station represented something new in galactic history, A place where different species could work together for mutual benefit. Dr. Vasquez was leading a project to develop new defensive technologies that could protect peaceful species from future threats. The key is to create systems that enhance natural abilities rather than replace them. Each species brings unique strengths to the alliance. As the first year of the Human-Cathara alliance came to an end, both species had been transformed by their contact with each other. Humans had gained advanced technology and a greater understanding of their place in the galaxy. The Cathara had gained protection and the knowledge that they were not alone in their commitment to peaceful existence. Ambassador William stood in the council chambers, looking out at the stars where human and Cathara ships patrolled together.